Interrogations of the accused in a criminal case are usually long, drawn-out affairs that may stretch out for hours or, in some cases, even carry over multiple days. What happens when the interrogations are not as tricky as they are thought to be? What happens when interrogations are completed in mere minutes? Let's take a look at some instances of interrogations that were so short that you'd probably miss them if you were to take a coffee break. Refusal to be interrogated. The man shown in the clip is the accused in an encounter between car burglars and off-duty police officers.
I handcuff you back to the chair, but I can fix your ankle.
An officer was hit with a moving vehicle in the incident. The suspect seems nonchalant as he is removed from his handcuffs and allowed to wait in the room. This is a common tactic used by law enforcement agencies. Suspects are isolated from their friends and family to make them feel alone and defenseless. This is the same reason why interrogation rooms are usually windowless, or the windows are only transparent from one side. After a while, the officer responsible for the interrogation enters along with another officer responsible for cuffing the suspect again. He is handcuffed to the table and left alone with the other officer as the interrogation begins. It is standard procedure for interrogations to begin with a statement of the rights of the suspect or accused in a criminal case. This is exactly what the officer does as he reads off the suspect's rights. The suspect is silent for the most part, only giving his assent to what is being read out now and then. He says the following.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have them present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before the question if you wish.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have them present with you as you are questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, the court will appoint a lawyer to represent you if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or give any statements. The officer begins the interrogation by asking him if he wishes to talk to him after hearing all his rights. The suspect, in an unusual move, says that he wouldn't like to talk and instead wishes to phone his mother. The interrogation is immediately adjourned. This is one of the key parts of a police interrogation that many often overlook or don't understand. You have certain inalienable rights, such as the right to an attorney or the right to remain silent, and you may utilize these rights to avoid speaking in a way that may incriminate you further. The suspect here soon pleaded for a deal and likely ended up better off than he would have been if he participated in the interrogation. Withdrawal of consent. The suspect that we now consider is Raymond Gates, accused of sexual assault on a minor. This particular confession had a speedy conclusion owing to a confession that not even the suspect realized he had made. The crime was witnessed by multiple people owing to it being recorded by a friend of the victim who streamed it on the app Periscope. The authorities already had evidence, but they needed to prove that the victim had not provided consent, which was not provable from the small recording provided. But a confession from the accused would seal the deal. The interrogation began, and 7 minutes in Raymond let something slip that would lead to his undoing and prosecution.
Me, she wants to lose her virginity, man. She's ready to do it and everything. And then right a couple seconds before, and she's like, I don't know, and stuff like that. I mean, that's how girls get when they lose virginity. And then afterwards, we're like holding each other and stuff. And she's like saying she's not.
Raymond tries to justify his stand by saying that the girl had given consent prior to the act and that he was only trying to fulfill her wish. However, he also mentions that moments before the act, the girl had withdrawn consent, yet he decided to go through with it, which amounts to sexual assault of a minor. The interrogating officer questions him why he didn't heed the cries of the victim who said that it hurt, but Raymond tries to justify it by saying that this is how it usually is for virgins. By now, Raymond realizes that he has slipped up, but it is too late. He mentioned that the victim had explicitly withdrawn her consent moments before the crime had occurred, which makes the act a crime. By doing so, Raymond had unwittingly proved himself a sexual offender. He would be sentenced to 9 years in prison. The interrogation lasted for 9 minutes and 18 seconds. Out-of-the-box approach. The next interrogation not only lasted for a shorter period of time in comparison to Mr. Gates, but also had a particularly hilarious ending to the interrogation. Quantrell Schwartzlow was brought for interrogation as the accused for strangling and assaulting a girl. After being escorted to the interrogation room by an officer, he is left alone for a measly 12 seconds in which he sees an opportunity to run for it and tries to escape by jumping out of an open window in the room. His absence is unnoticed for 12 minutes, when the officer finally returns and realizes what has happened. Fortunately, Quantrell couldn't get all that far, with his handcuffs still binding his hands, and was recaptured by the law enforcement agencies. Certainly the most unique approach to closing an interrogation so far. Unfortunately for Quantrell, it more likely just made the situation worse for him, as he probably had an additional charge for trying to escape from being prosecuted for his crimes. Confessions with no benefits. Ricky Hawthorne was accused of the murders of 2 individuals and the sexual assault of the female individual. The case was seemingly open and shut because Ricky was found close to the scene of the crime covered in blood. Moreover, his DNA was found at the crime scene. It was only a matter of time before Ricky would be convicted, but surprisingly, Ricky decided to help his prosecutors out a bit. Soon after Ricky was left in the interrogation room, he knocked at the door of the room to call the officer responsible and immediately began to confess.
Hey,
Come on in.
hey, listen.
Yeah, I did.
I
I did.
You know what? Let's do this.
I did it, but I think somebody came behind me and finished it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it.
The officer himself seems taken aback at Ricky's sudden cooperation and goodwill. He asks him to do the interrogation properly, but Ricky continues to say that while he did attack the couple, he thinks that someone else came after him and finished the victims off. He strongly denies that he murdered the couple and keeps on insisting that it was another person who did it. It is apparent that Ricky realizes that he is not going to be able to get off scot-free due to the presence of his DNA at the crime scene, so he tries to get a more lenient sentencing by trying to clear himself from at least some of the charges. He attempts to do this by confessing to the lesser charges of manslaughter, which have more lenient sentencing in comparison to first-degree murder. However, as proven by the eventual sentencing, this action did not result in any viable upside to Ricky, as he would be sentenced for the first and second-degree murders of the couple. It is important that a suspect does not confess to any crime directly to the officers in charge if he wishes for any reduction in his sentence or even avoid jail time altogether. Confessing a crime is an action that results in no upside for the accused. This is different from testifying to a court, because then the court is law-bound to provide the suspect with a more lenient sentencing, while there is no surety when he confesses. A chilling interrogation. Perhaps the fastest interrogation is one that was already completed before it even started. Jared Murray was accused of the murder of his friend Gennaro Sanchez on a car ride to Walmart. According to sources, Murray immediately confessed to the murder even before he reached the police station. Immediately as the interrogation progresses, you can tell something isn't quite right. The manner in which Jared speaks is cold. He is only too happy to provide exact facts regarding how he committed the murder, down to the number of shots he fired and the shots he missed. His answers even seem too precise, almost as if he rehearsed them. He is able to even state that the location of the murder was 1.7 miles away from a school in the vicinity. His answers seem robotic, as if he's just stating obvious facts, lacking any response or noticeable empathy in his voice. Later, after extensive mental analysis, it would be discovered that Jared suffers from psychoactive disorder, as a result of which he perpetrated the murder. It would be this diagnosis that led him a change in the first conviction of first-degree murder, which would be changed due to his condition of insanity. Jared would be admitted to a mental health facility indefinitely to receive treatment. We've seen a large number of suspects get interrogated over the past few minutes. There's a lot. Each of them took different approaches to their interrogations, and they received varying results. It is important to realize that interrogations may progress differently depending upon a lot of varying factors, such as officers in charge, region, crime, and general behavior of the accused. In case you're ever in such a situation, it is the wisest option to speak as little as possible, to know your rights and get your lawyer on your side as soon as possible. Let's hope you'll fare a little bit better than some of these suspects.